So after reviewing Horn Sweet Horn from the Powerpuff Girls reboot, I got to thinking, were there any episodes out there animation-wise that offended me more in terms of plot contrivance and overall annoyance? Well, unfortunately, my brain dredged up an answer. Arnold Betrays Iggy. Ugh. First off, I love Hey Arnold. It's my second favorite Nickelodeon show of all time, and it's finally getting a justified ending, which I'm also really excited for. What Arnold Betrays Iggy is, I don't even know how to describe it. It doesn't even feel like the same show. In many regards, it's the worst episode of the entire series, and it's easy to see why, when this episode led to the creator not only making anyone on staff on the episode issue a public apology, but basically killed Iggy as a character. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's take a look at this episode, shall we? Also, RIP to Steve Bixton. I don't hold this episode against you. Everyone has their dark moments. This was yours. So we start this episode out with Arnold, Stinky, and Sid. Stinky and Sid are reoccurring characters who would go on to have more major roles in the show later on, including their own plot-centric episodes. Both are good characters in their own way, however in this episode they are their literal worst. And this started off swimmingly with them just going on and on about Iggy, how cool he is, how great he is. Stinky must say he's so cool about 6 times in the scene, if not more. Show, don't tell. It's a key rule of writing, and they broke it straight away. Chances are, if you have to tell your audience how cool or perfect a character is, it's not gonna work. Trust me, I've seen it. This year. Ugh. So Arnold's job in this episode, and only thing he basically does, keep that in mind, is deliver homework to a sick, super cool though, Iggy at his house, and upon entering we are greeted with Iggy. And the plot device for this episode. Bunny pajamas. Yes, Iggy wears bunny pajamas. Do you see that? Do you really? Because trust me, it's very important that you remember this fact, because Iggy sure wears bunny pajamas. To cut this scene short, Iggy basically throws a fit because he has contradicted the 8 times Stinky said he was cool, and basically begs Arnold to keep this a secret. Arnold laughs it off, but promises to do so. Fair enough, right? Anyone would have a little laugh at seeing someone basically in that frickin' getup. Scene ends, but the episode doesn't. Oh, it doesn't. So the next day, Sid and Stinky prod Arnold about super cool Iggy, and Arnold basically can't contain himself at the memory. He keeps it a secret still and basically just says it was something Iggy was wearing and makes him laugh. And I shit you not, the line that comes out of Sid's mouth is, "It's not like he was wearing bunny pajamas." Arnold hesitates, and that's enough for Sid and Stinky to take this as gospel. And they now know Iggy wears bunny pajamas. There is plot contrivance, and then there is whatever the hell this scene was. Arnold not only didn't flat out tell them, but of all things to guess clothing-wise, bunny pajamas is like the 3rd thing they guess. That's not convenience, that's not coincidence, that's just horrid writing for the sole purpose of moving the plot along. And it moves along. Badly. Arnold asks them not to tell anyone, but they do because they're dipshits. The whole school, as a matter of fact. And here's where the plot completely goes so overbearing that it's really hard to talk about it in detail until the climax. Essentially, the school mocks Iggy for this, and his popularity is ruined. And he, of course, blames Arnold and basically won't listen to anything he says, and we are supposed to feel sympathy for Iggy in this dilemma. And at the moment, sure, I guess it's reasonable, even though it's completely contrived shit. However, there is such a thing called abuse of sympathy, and this episode does that really, really well. And it may be the only thing it sadly does well. So Arnold is faced with a moral dilemma. Again, this is showing guilt to the situation. He legitimately feels bad for what he's done to Iggy because he didn't mean it. He's Arnold, of course he wouldn't. So he gets advice from Grandpa Phil about the situation, and he brings up the bunny pajamas, and even he is laughing at it. I don't get it. Bunny pajamas are the most hilarious thing in this town? It really must be dull because every character seems to endlessly crack up about it. I don't have an explanation, and I don't think there is one. Bunny pajamas. Laugh. So Grandpa basically tells Arnold to try and explain the situation, and if that doesn't work, maybe buy his forgiveness. Essentially try and smooth the situation over and prove that you want to show you're sorry. So he attempts this, by apologizing and even giving a gift, but it doesn't work. What really is off-putting about this scene is Iggy isn't really shown throughout the episode to be really bothered by this whole ordeal. He just has this stone stoicness about him, and he directs all of his hatred at Arnold and no one else. And already it's getting annoying here, but it's far from over. Arnold continues trying to smooth this over while Iggy continues this smug, standoffish routine. And the more he does it, the more his face seems more punchable. But the heckling continues, and even we see Gerald laughing in the background at it. This episode really isn't good for anyone, but especially to see Gerald laughing at this, when he of all people, being Arnold's best friend, should understand it's hurting Arnold as much as Iggy. It's a really shitty move. So Iggy won't forgive Arnold, and these two jackasses think that maybe Iggy is taking this too hard, and maybe something should be done. But they figure it won't last forever. And then a year passes. Yeah, a year. A year of this BS. This was long before social media, long before lasting impressions could be had. Guest hearsay from two kids' mouths is able to last a ferocity against someone for a year. Either that, or Iggy has just decided to hold a grudge this long, in which case, sympathy for the character is really ruined. So Arnold says he'll do Iggy's chores for a week, again, showing guilt, showing he cares, and wants to atone for this screw-up. So he does it. Arnold does this bastard's chores, being the bigger man, showing that he is willing to work for an apology, and he still doesn't give him it. You know what? Screw this character, okay? Screw him. You're basically putting down Arnold every step of the way this episode for basically no reason. He's shown how sorry he is multiple times, and it's gone from reasonable anger to pettiness and bitterness that Iggy is holding on to because he seemingly has nothing better to do. He's not showing emotional damage from this. He just looks like a normal kid. He's acting like a normal kid. He's only blaming Arnold seemingly for not keeping his promise, for breaking his trust. Trust of a kid he barely knows. And this sucks, and it drags the whole episode down. Hard. At this point, they basically lost everything with the plot as it is, but now is when the episode gets to its worst point. The end. So Iggy's grand plan of forgiveness is making Arnold strut out on a runway in a bunny suit to be humiliated because, quote-unquote, it's the only way he'll know how Iggy felt. No. Okay? Hell no! This is the most BS thing I've ever seen. Iggy was ridiculed, yes, by his peers. This is basic exploitation and humiliation of Arnold in front of the whole town. Recorded on video. It is nowhere near the same thing that Iggy went through, at all, in any capacity. This is a sick, orgasmic, revenge-filled fantasy that nobody asked for, but it's treated as such. He's treated like the hero, and Arnold is treated like the villain. By everybody. Why did the whole town and news crew show up for this? Is this seriously a monumental occasion in the town? Does this kid have this much pull? Even Grandpa is ready to demean his own grandson. What the hell is going on here? Seriously, screw this. But somehow, it gets worse. In one last act of contrivance for the plot, Sid and Stinky, who just so happened to be next to Iggy, just so happened to say it was their fault that the bunny pajamas thing was leaked. They drug it out of Arnold, and it was their fault. Another thing this plot did wrong, the true antagonists, Sid and Stinky, go completely unpunished. They just have their fill and laughs at everyone else's expense and cause this whole mess, and yet they aren't the ones punished for this episode. We all are. And then it happens. One of the most hard-to-watch scenes in animation history. Arnold walking out in slow motion in a bunny suit, completely humiliated by everyone, laughing and mocking him as Iggy is forced to watch how much of a jackass he has come to fruition. And it's just so hard to watch. Even to this day, knowing what Arnold went through, even with an older mind, and seeing what he's gone through now, someone who tried so hard to get forgiveness out of someone who basically did not deserve it. And going back to how they seem to make their mission to make everyone a dick, they include Stoop Kid in the background. How could you do that? Stoop Kid was such an influential part of the show, even though he was only in one episode as a main character. His life is basically owed to Arnold. So he wouldn't be there, ridiculing him. This is shit. What, is Pigeon Man gonna swoop down and shit on Arnold's face next? Because that's what it seems like is gonna happen. Anyway, ending this scene, it's hard. It's one of the worst scenes you will ever see in a show. Especially a good show, where you know the show is better than this. It's uncomfortable knowing that a whole town, including adults, will come and tape a kid in a bunny suit being humiliated. But it's even worse knowing that it was all for absolutely nothing. And the episode ends, and the roles are reversed. Iggy trying to apologize, but Arnold is simply not having it. Can you blame him? I can't. This episode was a pile of hot garbage, and Iggy suffered for it by never being the focus of an episode ever again. The grand debut, a lasting impact, not for good reasons. Arnold Betrays Iggy may not have the big misconstrued moral that Horn Sweet Horn did, but it has its own special set of problems that show, hey, not everything from the 90s was golden goose, and this is one of the prime examples. Iggy is one of the most unlikable characters maybe ever. He's put up against Arnold as a debuting character, someone we know, trust, love, and basically back in a situation. When we see Arnold trying to make this right and things going wrong for him, it's just a hard domino effect that all started because he was just delivering Iggy's homework. So remember, kids, good deeds will backfire on you, I guess. That's what I got from this episode. Dad and Vixen may have some childhood issues to think not only this fit the tone of the show, but was an okay plot to write. As an aspiring writer, I can tell you, this may be one of the biggest examples of how not to write an episode. Arnold Betrays Iggy is a black stain on an otherwise golden show, but it shows out everything is always perfect, especially if the writing isn't there. It can ruin a character almost immediately. First impressions are everything, and this was Iggy's last, and Craig Bartlett made sure of that. A PSA to creators, stop making episodes where other characters suffer and the instigators are never punished, because it's dumb and I'm sick of seeing it. You hear that, Casey Alexander? It never works, and it just looks outright incompetent. Like two kids guessing another wears bunny pajamas, for example, and ruining somebody's life in the process. Asshats. Anyway, that's it for this review. Hope you like, comment, subscribe, and enjoy these reviews. We'll see what I come up with next and when. All depends on the inspiration, but I appreciate the feedback. I know my audio isn't the best and my equipment isn't the best, but I try to entertain you guys, and I know you appreciate it. Until next time, I'm the Rise and Fall of Nickelodeon, and screw you, Iggy.